One of the most tiring trends on game dev discourse is the idea of the lazy dev. It always comes from the most ignorant people and completely ignores the time-honored tradition of reusing assets that's prevalent in literally every creative medium. The only true finite resource, the one thing that cannot be replaced or recreated, is time. And in this capitalist hellscape nightmare world we all live in, everything fights for our time. So I'm going to show you how I tap into my inner lazy dev and create some new assets in a fraction of the time. I needed to model a gas station bathroom, but just considering the bare minimum of resources, the work began piling up. I needed a space for the player to walk in, of course, a bathroom stall with toilet, urinals, pipes, lights, a sink, and a working mirror. I assessed about 3 to 4 hours just on the gray box alone, but I remembered that I did a PlayStation-style render of Silent Hill 2's bathroom for an old project last year, so why not recycle what I created instead? So up front, I want to bust the myth that asset flipping is something easily implemented. A skilled artist has to work the assets into their own style. A render only needs to look nice from one angle, but a game needs to look nice from all angles. Because my render only needs to look nice from one angle, there's a lot of messy geometry. I'm very particular about geometry. I try my best to limit n-gons, which are polygons with more than 4 sides. Modern game engines force all geometry to render as triangles, but limiting n-gons is just good practice in my opinion. I also pay attention to geometry the player can't see. In my render, the walls had thickness, but for an adventure game, I need the camera to be able to see through one side. This is called the back face, which by default the engine doesn't render. Next, I spent some time stitching all the vertices together. This cuts down on the vertices, which frees up processing power. I'm doing a lot of hand-wringing about optimizing a scene with fewer polygons and a single character in a game from the PlayStation 3 era. But I'm making a PlayStation-style game, and I've got to commit to the bit. As I explained in the previous video, this is a meditative process for me. The scene is still too high poly for my taste, so I run the decimate modifier on a few objects. The toilets and pipes in particular were very expensive, and I managed to cut the triangle count down from about 10,000 to 5,000, which I'm happy with because that's more or less close to the PlayStation's capabilities of rendering fully textured polygons at 30 FPS. This is also where good geometry is important, because the decimate modifier is pretty intrusive, but the overall silhouette of my objects doesn't change much even when I reduce the count by half. And that does it for the gray box. The original render took me about 8 hours from start to finish, but this gray box only took me about 45 minutes of work. Game development is all about time management. I would love to work on a Stardew Valley scoped game full-time over the course of 4 or 5 years, but I work an 8-hour job. I drive an hour both ways on a commute, and I come home to an angry cat. Sometimes I only have half an hour to work on my project, so reusing art for me is a question of taking the entire week to finish something, vice taking a single evening. So if you ask me, being lazy is just getting a good value out of your limited time.